This week, I'm going to show you guys how to make this beaded pumpkin. Since we're still in the Halloween season, this is cute as a phone charm. You can also rock it as earrings. Just a little accessory to help you celebrate Halloween. If you guys never done beading before, this might be quite a challenge. You can start by checking out my beginner video on how to bead a crystal ball. The link is provided in the info box. Let's begin now, shall we? I am using fishing line. It is very strong and also transparent, great for beading but difficult to catch on camera. No worry, paint 2 colors of nail polish on each end of the line to help you follow along. I'm gonna color the whole line, but you don't have to. There, now that's much better. The size and amount of beads for this project are in the info box. We are gonna use different sizes and colors, so be sure you know them. First, we're gonna start off with 5 C beads. Grab both ends of the line and pull the beads to the center. Take the blue line and loop it to the last bead on the red line. Remember this technique because we're going to use it over and over again. See, there it is, your very first loop. And we only have 41 more loops to go. First 2 is 3mm, then 4mm after another 3mm bead. Remember the orders of the bead, it is very important. Take your red line and thread it through the next C bead. We are going to use this technique over and over again during the process. Now you're ready for the next loop. Add 1 3mm, then 4mm, and 1 more 3mm bicone beads. Grab the blue line and loop it to the next C bead. The 4th and the 5th loop are the same as the 3rd loop. A lot of them are a repeating pattern. You just have to pay attention to the position, color, and the size of the beads. As you can see, the 5th loop is the same. When you move forward to the 6th loop, it's going to be the closing of the first row. The closing loop is going to be a little different. Take your blue line, thread it through the C bead, but also the 3mm bicone beads stand next to it. Add 1 3mm and 1 4mm to the 6th loop. Next is the 7th loop, also the starting of the next row. 2 4mm bicone and 1 round black bead for the eye. Take your red line and thread it through the 3mm bead that is next to the black bead. Add 2 4mm bicone beads to the blue line. Crisscross it using the red line. Loop the blue line to the next 4mm bead. Add 1 4mm black bicone for the nose and 1 4mm bicone bead. Thread the red line to the next 3mm bead. Add 1 4mm bicone and 1 4mm black round for the other eye. Now you can kinda see the face of the pumpkin. Thread your blue line to the next 4mm bicone beads to get ready for the 11th loop. The 11 to 15 loops are going to be the same. Simply add 2 4mm bicone beads and crisscross it using the opposite line. Beading is a very tedious work. The most important part about beading is to pay attention to position, color, size, and the amount of beads. The worst that can happen is when you finish, you realize you missed a bead on one of your loops. When that happens, it almost makes you want to pull your hair out, but don't. You just have to pay attention and be careful. After you finish your 15th loop, we're ready to close the 2nd row with the 16th loop. Remember, the closing loop is always going to be a little different. Thread your red lines through the 3mm and 4mm bicone beads. It kinda creates a little U shape. Add 1 4mm bicone beads to the blue line, crisscross it with the red line to complete the loop. We are moving on to the 3rd row with 17th loop. Add 3 4mm bicones to the red line and crisscross it with the blue line. Thread your red line to the next 4mm bicone bead. Add 2 4mm bicone beads to the blue line and crisscross it with the red line. We are starting to make the mouth of the pumpkin. Remember to thread the blue lines to the next 4mm bead. First add one 4mm black bicone, then one 4mm gold bicone bead. The next 20 and 21st loops are the same as the 19th loop. Remember to add the black bead first, then the gold bead. You can kinda make out the shape of the mouth. The 22nd through 25th loop are the same. Many of beading patterns use a lot of repeating pattern. Once you identify the repeating part, your beading experience will be much easier. When you finish with your 25th loop, we're ready to close the row with the 26th loop. Remember, closing the row is a little different. Thread the red lines to the next two 4mm bicone beads to create that U shape. Simply add one 4mm bicone beads to the blue line, crisscross it with the red to complete the loop and the row. The fourth row starts with 27th loop. Add three 4mm beads on the red line and cross it with the blue. Thread the red lines to the next 4mm bicone bead. Pay attention because we're using the 3mm beads again. First add one 3mm, then one 4mm bead. Thread the blue lines to the next 4mm bead. Next add two 4mm beads to the red line, cross it with the blue. Thread the red line to the next black bead. We are finishing up the mouth part of the pumpkin. Add one 3mm gold and one 4mm black bead. Thread the blue line to the next black bead. Loop 31. Add one 4mm gold and one 4mm black to your red line. Add one 3mm and one 4mm gold bead. Now you can see the face of the pumpkin. Thread the blue lines to the next 4mm bead. Add two 4mm bicone bead. Thread the red line to the next 4mm bead. Add one 3mm and one 4mm bead. Thread the blue line to the next 4mm bead. Add two 4mm bicone beads. At this point, we are closing the fourth row with the 36th loop. Thread the red line through the next two 4mm beads. Close the fourth row with one 3mm bicone bead. Now we are getting ready to close the pumpkin. Thread your red lines to the next 4mm bead. Add one 3mm, one C bead, and one more 3mm beads to the blue line. Take one head pin and add one 3mm bead and place it through the pumpkin. This is the little hinge that we're going to use and make it into a foam charm or earring. Take a round 14mm beads. I'm using a marble. If you think it's going to be too heavy for earrings, you can use plastic pearl. Next, thread your blue line to the next 3mm and 4mm bead. Add one C bead and one 3mm beads to the red line. Thread the red line through the next 3mm and 4mm bead. If you notice, we are repeating the pattern again. The 39 and the 40 loop are the same as the 38 loop. The 41 loop is the closing loop. First, thread the red line through the 3mm, then 4mm, and finish it with another 3mm. You can kind of see that it formed a little U shape. Finish off with one C bead. It is pretty much done, but we want to finish off with one final loop to tie everything together. Take your blue line and thread it through all the C bead. When the blue line meet up with the red, tie it into a knot. Be sure to tie it a few times so it won't come loose. Cut your remaining lines off and you're finished. I added two brown beads to give the illusion of stem, but this is optional. Now I'm going to show you how to make a loop. Bend the wire at the bead slightly over. At the tip of the wire, start rolling downward. I'm using my old phone charm strap. No need to buy a new one if it still works. Ta-da! Now it's finished. If you finish this, you are one crafty baby. Go ahead, pack yourself in the back. You deserve it. To make it into an earring is very simple. Replace the phone strap with a fish hook ear wire. It's perfect for Halloween season. I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. Be sure to come back next week. May you be happy.